Dear beloved, blessed families throughout the world, as we enter the fullest of early summer in June, I pray that the love and blessing of our Heavenly Parent may be ever more abundantly present in your families and daily lives. For this week's message, I would like to share with all blessed families around the world a portion of the message that I gave at the commemorative service for the 64th day of All True Things. First, let us read together a passage from 천성경. What must be done in order to establish the day of all things? Because all things of creation came under Satan's dominion through the fall of our first ancestors. The true ancestor of humankind must appear in order to restore them. Next, centering on the resulting parent-child relationship, the dominion with which God blessed Adam must be restored. Centering on this parent-child relationship, the horizontal connection between people must be established, creating a standard by which the entire created world can be governed. Therefore, in the Unification Church, after the establishment of Children's Day, centering on True Parents' Day, the day of all things was established. Dear and beloved blessed families and members, I sincerely congratulate you on the occasion of the 64th day of All True Things. As we welcome this day, I find myself deeply longing for true father and true mother from the depth of my heart. Especially today, the words of Unification Thought author Dr. Sang-Eun Lee came vividly alive with me. In Dr. Sang-Eun Lee's biography, the following account is recorded. At that time, True Father said, "A person who cannot experience God's heart cannot enter the kingdom of heaven." Holding firmly to those words, Dr. Lee undertook a 21-day fast with utmost determination. After completing the fast, at midnight, he prepared to break it with some rice porridge and fish. At that very moment, however, he saw a vision in which the fish suddenly came to life and protested, saying, "Do you, a sinner, have the qualification to eat me?" At the same time, the Garden of Eden appeared before him, followed by successive visions of Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and finally Reverend Sun Myung Moon. In each scene, these central figures appeared so pitiable to him. Dr. Lee said that, especially when he thought about Reverend Sun Myung Moon, he could only weep uncontrollably through this experience. Dr. Lee came to deeply realize the truth of True Father's teaching that had humanity not fallen, people would have been able to communicate even with all things of creation. That is my brief reflection on the story in Dr. Lee's biography. As we commemorate the Day of All Things this week, I too find myself immersed in deep thought. I came to wonder, what if the fruit offered up to heaven on this day stood up And if they could speak to us, what would they say? Last year, on True Children's Day, I briefly explained the significance of the 8 great holidays established by True Father. At that time, the point I wished to emphasize was that, unfortunately, many people tend to view each holiday independently and simply celebrate it on that particular day. I therefore explained that viewing the 8 great holidays separately is like focusing on a single tree while not seeing the entire forest. Among the 8 great holidays True Father established, the first 4 represent a magnificent providential course through which the 6,000 years history of fallen humankind was indemnified and restored in reverse order. They were milestones in the providence of restoration, restoring before heaven the original order of creation that had been destroyed by the fall. For this reason, the first holiday True Father established was Parents' Day, on the first day of 3rd lunar month in 1960. The second was Children's Day, established on the first day of the 10th lunar month in the same year. The third was Day of All Things, established on the first day of 5th lunar month in 1963. Finally, on January 1st, 1968, by the solar calendar, True Parents proclaimed it God's Day. If this holiday had been established according to the normal order of creation, would it not have been appreciated for God's Day to be established first? Even considering the order in which God created the universe, this would be the case. God first created all things, and then create His children, Adam and Eve. He desired that those children would grow to become true parents. Accordingly, the normal order would be God's Day, Day of All Things, Children's Day, then Parents' Day. However, True Father established the holiday in the reverse order: Parents' Day, Children's Day, Day of All Things, and finally God's Day. Why did He carry out the providence in this way? In the exposition of the Divine Principle, page 151, we find the following. For anyone to be restored to the original position or state from which he fell, he must make an indemnity condition by reversing the course of his mistake. In accordance with this principle, True Father established the 4 great holidays by retracing in reverse order the history of God's creation of the universe, by setting the indemnity condition that reversed the course of the fall. He restored all things to their original position in accordance with God's ideal of creation. Whenever I reflect upon this providential course alone, I'm once again reminded of how great, how unique True Father was. Coming to this earth in the flesh, He indemnified and restored the 6,000 years history of fallen humanity and liberated God, setting God free. This was an unprecedented achievement in human history, a miraculous work that only true parents could accomplish. Dear members, there is yet another profound secret of heaven that we must never overlook. At the pinnacle of true Father's great accomplishment. On this day of all true things, I would like to share the heart behind today's message by posing a fundamental question that can awaken the spiritual insight of our seniors and juniors and fellow public leaders gathered here. The question is this: why can heaven's providence not be completed solely through true Father's accomplishment, but only reaches its conclusion through the fulfillment of true Mother's providential mission? To understand this immense providential mystery, we must first revisit the essential mission of Jesus, who came after 4,000 years of the providence. Most Christians define Jesus' mission as saving humankind. They believe that Jesus was the sacrificial offering of atonement and saved humankind through the sacrifice of his own life. However, our understanding is different. God's greatest sorrow was the loss of the beloved children, Adam and Eve. While bearing that immeasurable pain, God sent the only begotten Son after 4,000 years. What would have been God's highest priority? Would it have been to save the descendant of fallen humanity, whose existence was unrelated to God's original ideal of creation? Or would it have been to restore the direct children, Adam and Eve, who had been lost, and establish them in the position of the true parents? The mission of only begotten Son Jesus, who came after 4,000 years, was to stand as the restored Adam and receive the only begotten daughter, the substantial restored Eve, and together establish themselves as the true parents on earth. Only after becoming the true parents could they have fully saved all of humankind through people's relationship with true parent. Therefore, Jesus' ultimate mission was not simply the salvation of humanity itself. Prior to that, his primary mission was to receive the only begotten daughter, and that they become the true parent. The salvation of humanity, for which Christians have been longing, can be completed only through the true parent. Bearing the weighty heavenly imperative of the advent of a true parent, the one who inherited Jesus' mission was none other than true Father, the Messiah at the second advent. All of us are well aware of this historical truth, right? Factually, when true Father inherited the mission of returning Messiah from Jesus, the providential foundation that heaven had prepared was unimaginably vast. Over the 4,000 years prior to Jesus' birth, Noah, Abraham, Moses, and the prophet of Old Testament age laid an immense spiritual foundation in preparation for his coming. Added to this, the global foundation built through thousands of years of Christian history, established upon Jesus' 3 years public ministry and his sacrificial cause of the cross. Then why, even upon that tremendous foundation, was true Father unable to begin his mission immediately as the Messiah at the second advent? Furthermore, even after conducting the marriage supper of the Lamb in 1960, why did he had to begin once again from the distant and difficult initial stage of the Old Testament and New Testament age, restoring Adam and Eve through a course of suffering and indemnity? I found the answer in True Father's word at the Silobra Hotel in Brazil on July 1st, 1997. At the time of World War II, there were 8 million Christians. If they had united with the one whom heaven had sent at that time, the blessing would not have taken 7 years. But within 7 months, centering on the United States, Great Britain, and France, nation that formed a unified front in the world. If people had proclaimed it, let's receive the blessing, then all of humankind, nearly 4 billion people, could have been completely transformed within a week, even within a single day. But all of that was lost because Christianity rejected me and drove me out. The 4,000 years providential foundation prepared for Jesus continued through the subsequent 2,000 years of Christian history. However, because Christianity at that time failed to receive true Father, and instead opposed and rejected him, the 6,000 years foundation upon which the Messiah at the second advent should have stood was lost. One can secretly imagine the depth of true Father's grief and heartbreak. At that time, true Father must have faced 2 possible options. Would he abandon the path of the Messiah at the second advent? Or would he rebuild from the beginning the 6,000 years foundation that had been lost? He must have wrestled deeply with this question. Yet, true Father never abandoned the path of the Messiah at the second advent. Instead, he began anew, putting right the entangled history of the providence and rebuilding the lost foundation step by step as he advanced forward. Because he absolutely had to fulfill heaven's will, true Father was able, beginning with true parents' holy wedding, to restore true Parents' Day, true Children's Day, Day of all true things, and true God's Day. Upon that victorious foundation, the foundation day for the unified nation of heaven and earth, 7.1절 and 7.8절 could also be established. Dear members, it is precisely at this point that we must confront the answer to the fundamental question raised earlier. True Father's harsh suffering and reverse all the course of restoration of 6,000 years of history, which we observed with tears, was by no means a course by which Father was to stand as one person on his own. Rather, it was a tearful course through which he became the deep and solid root to raise each of us to become the green trees that would together form the great forest of God's providence. If we fail to look beyond the deep root of a true Father's course of suffering and see the entire vast forest of the providence, we can never fully understand the complete fulfillment of heaven's providence. No matter how strong and magnificent a root may be, the root alone cannot form the complete forest. If true Father's restoration providence was the course of a reversal to restore and establish the collapsed foundation of creation into a foundation of victory, then the ultimate destination and culmination of that course was to receive true Mother, the only begotten daughter, and celebrate the holy wedding. Upon the firm root that is true Father, the verdant earth of life that is true Mother was added, and only then could the great forest of true love, wherein all humanity may dwell, finally emerge. What is important is that the upright position of true parents attained through the holy wedding was not only a great culminating point that concluded 6,000 years of sorrowful history, but at the same time, the unprecedented and glorious standing point of the era of true parent. Therefore, the completion of the only begotten daughter providence of true Mother is not merely a conclusion that brings past history to close. It is key that substantively settles and brings to eternal victory the great work of restoration through indemnity that true Father's entire life had been invested to accomplish. Furthermore, it is the great providential milestone that all blessed families must pass as we advance toward the radiant future of heavenly unified Korea and the heavenly unified world. Only when true Mother's providence is completed can true Father's mission also be completed. And only then can heavenly parents' ideal world be realized in substance on earth. None of this providence could have been accomplished by true Father alone, nor could it have been accomplished by true Mother alone. Heaven's will could unfold as a substantial providence of God in history only when they become true parents together. Therefore, we must not view or understand the providence looking only from one side. Most especially, the blessed family of this age must never separate true Father's providential course from true Mother's mission as the only begotten daughter. The ultimate purpose of a true father's course of restoration through indemnity of 6,000 years of history was to receive the only begotten daughter so they could stand as the true parents, while up to the present time, it is true mother who has been leading the final completion of the providence in substance in order to fulfill that providence of true parent. Therefore, the status and essence of the only begotten daughter cannot be understood merely as a theological proposition. A mother's profound love and heart are beyond the measure of anything in the universe. If we attempt to understand the only begotten daughter, true mother, through a theological framework or a shallow human reasoning, the truth of providence will become obscured by a dense fog. If we are unable to recognize that truth, then the lament and petition of all creation that Dr. Sang-Won Lee heard will once again pose the solemn question to the blessed families of this age. Are you standing in the original position that true parents established for you? Do you understand the responsibility of this age in which you attend the only begotten daughter and advance toward the completion of the providence? I believe this is the deepest question that they of all true things present to our blessed families today. Just as Dr. Lee risked his life in 21 days of prayer to find the answer regarding the words true Father had spoken to him, so too must all of us, as blessed family in this time, attending true mother and advancing toward the completion of the providence, seek the answer to this profound historical question within our own lives. On this day of all true things, I offer my sincere gratitude and glory before the great cause upon which true parents never abandoned heaven's providence and have guided it to this day. Furthermore, I bow my head in gratitude for the indescribable sacrifice and labor of true mother, who, keeping all the secret and suffering of this providence deep within her heart, remained one in heart and unity with true Father for their 53 years together since their holy wedding, enabling true Father to complete his mission. Before true mother, who has endured with the boundless love of a heavenly mother, even amid the pain of being misunderstood, we confess and repent our shortcoming and disloyalty in being unable to fully understand the providential significance of only begotten daughter. True Father, thank you. True Mother, we love you. True parents, we offer you our deepest glory and honor. Thank you. God bless you.